Rev up your engines! FPV says, Scotty, I got a 2019 Q50 Infinity, 140,000 miles, never changed the tranny fluid. I want to change it. What's the most conservative way to do it? Now, with high mileage, if they've never been changed, often I don't advise you to change it, but you've got a rather unique situation. 4 years old, but you got 140,000 miles. Most of that must have been highway. It's probably not dirty. Just drain and fill. Take the drain bolt out, drain it out, close it up, measure what came out, put the same amount back in, and buy the fluid at the Nissan dealer at the parts department. It's not that expensive. Don't mix fluids, because a bunch of it's still going to be inside the transmission. You don't want to mix fluids, right? Do that, and that's the most conservative way to do it, and I would advise doing it. Now, let's say it was 20 years old, and you had 140,000 miles, it's never been touched, so I say leave it alone. But yours, you put the mileage on so fast, it's probably not all that dirty. Assad says, what do you think about the manufacturer switching from V8 engines to a twin-turbo V6? I think it's stupid. V8 engines have their place. A lot of torque and power, and they can last forever if they're normally aspirated. Well, to get the same or more horsepower out of a V8, they get V6 and they put 2 turbochargers. Extra pressure. They're going to wear out faster. And don't listen to the horse manure they throw out about better gas mileage. Got a customer in Tennessee, bought the new Toyota Tundra V6 twin turbos. He gets worse gas mileage in that than he got in his previous V8 Tundra. He pulls weight. Don't think that those ratings mean squat, right? You're going to get crap gas mileage if you tone with that thing. It's just a government BS thing where, well, the EPA ratings are higher, so we get brownie points for blah, 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 blah. They don't. You pull stuff, you get better gas mileage in a normally aspirated V8 than you will with a twin turbo V6. Believe me, I've seen that happen. It's only logical. They're made for extra power faster, but not pulling a lot of weight. You pull weight, down goes the gas mileage. The third stooge. My 84,000 mile Sport Track is seeping fluid from the transmission. All right, and you want to know where's it seeping from, right? Often it will be the seals where the axle shafts go in, right? If that's the case, you need new seals. You want to pray it's not the front main seal of the transmission, because that's where it bolts to the engine. You have to take the transmission off the engine to fix it. But there's always my favorites, a company in Chicago called ATP, Automatic Transmission Products. They sell a thing called AT Reseal. It reseals your transmissions. If the rubber's bad, it can easily reseal. They sell it on Amazon, lots of different places. It is a rejuvenator. It's a polymer, fixes the rubber up. Pour some in. 300 miles later, stop seeping, it fixed your problem. Often it'll work. Randy Ramirez says, I got an 09 2.4 liter Honda Accord, 1.8 liter Honda Civic. Are the Walmart SuperTech synthetic oil filters good to use as for the name brand synthetics? Yeah, they're perfectly fine. Realize a lot of the name brands, they don't make theirs either. Do you think Mobil 1 makes oil filters? No, they don't. Walmart buys stuff, gets a deal, and passes it on to you. There's nothing wrong with using theirs. Now, still, I don't care what anybody says. You got Hondas, they're great engines. Don't push 10, 12,000 mile oil changes. Change them every 5,000 miles. Unless you drive on a highway all the time. If you're going 60 miles an hour for 10, 20 hours all the time, you could then change it every 10,000 miles because it's not that much wear. But at city stop and go, change it every 5. Wayne says, Elmer Kilmer would be rolling around his grave. He saw the weird stuff going on in the auto industry nowadays. Yeah, well, if you don't know, Elmer was my grandfather. I learned how to fix cars from. And believe it or not, yes, his name was Elmer Kilmer. All right? So the Germans, they don't have a sense of humor, right? I'm like 95% German. They didn't see anything funny in Elmer Kilmer because the Germans have no sense of humor. So I'm the rare German who does have a sense of humor, right? But he would be. He hated it in the 70s when they started to bring the anti-pollution vacuum lines and EGR valves. He said, look at these cars. They've turned into a plumber's nightmare. Well, now we'd see they've turned into an electrician's nightmare. They're even worse. But you want to visit his grave? It's in Niagara Falls, New York. Grandmother's there next to him. Go ahead and visit it. It's in there. The old cemetery behind his house, just in downtown Niagara Falls. Google it. You can probably find it somewhere. Honda Fan 122 said, Scotty, my mechanic charged me $1,200 to change my timing belt and all the components on my Ridgeline. Is that a fair price? That's the going price in most places these days. It's a pain in the butt. Now, you could have bought quality parts for like $350. You could have done it yourself if you're mechanically inclined, but if you're not, don't even think about it. Pay somebody who knows what they're doing. You want the job done correctly because those air interference engines, if the belt breaks or the water pump breaks, pistons hit the valves, goodbye engine, it'll bend the valves. You'd have to get another engine. It wouldn't even be worth rebuilding the one you got. So that's what the going price is in most places these days. Norman Chatton says, how do you check the condition of an ignition coil pack? All right. Well, there's a zillion ways to check it. You can get data, and then you can get an ohm meter. You can measure the resistance, and there's various tests you can do. But alas, unfortunately, those are what are called static tests. Ignition coils are not static. They're dynamic. When you're running the car, they're firing. Then they're being dynamic. The only way to truly test them is you're going to need to meet a guy like me, or you're going to have to read up a lot. You get a freeze frame oscilloscope. You measure it while it's running, and then you analyze the waveform. Yes, it is extremely complicated. Now, there's many sites out there like the Auto Nerds, and they have libraries of known good waveforms for coils from various cars, and you can compare them. But let me tell you, those squiggly lines, sometimes a little bit big squiggle means nothing. Sometimes it means a lot. It's very hard to read waveforms. You know? The fortunate thing is most cars have individual coil packs, right? So if you got a problem, say in cylinder number 1, put the coil pack from 1 on 5 and 5 on 1, and if the trouble moves, you know it's the coil pack, right? A lot easier way of doing it. Johannes says 13 VW Jetta base 2-liter, 87,000 miles, no issues. What should I do to keep it that way? Don't drive it much. It's a Volkswagen, right? I mean, everything on them is plastic and cheap, and they fall apart as they age. There's no way you can stop that. But you also said, how do you preserve the transmission? I would change the fluid and the filter in that transmission every 30,000 miles. Those transmissions cost a fortune. Don't drive like a lunatic. Baby it. You never know how long it's going to last. But, and let me warn you this, it doesn't matter what you do for that plastic. It's going to get dried out, it's going to crack, and you're going to get problems as it ages because the Germans make crappy plastic, and as they age, they crack, and then you might think, oh, look, it's a piece of plastic. Oh, that part costs $300, and it's $600 labor tearing it apart to get to it. So, realize that. Benego says, Scotty, what do you think of a 96 Avalon 100,000 miles? Good buy or no? If it's really got 100,000 miles, it's probably in really good shape. But, also, that is what? 27-year-old car. It's a 27-year-old car. It's an old car. Don't pay much for it. I don't care what the mileage is. The transmission seal starts leaking, you got to pull the transmission off. That old, you're going to have rotting problems. Look at the paint. By then, a lot of times the paint's coming apart, and you'd have to repaint it if you wanted it to look nice. You know? Have a guy like me check it out. It's a 96. It has OBD too, so you can plug in an OBD scan tool, see what kind of shape it's in. But don't overpay. It's not a collector's item. It never will be. That's low mileage for them for sure. But you want to get it checked out, and then look for dry rot. You see all the rubber stuff's dry rotting, you're going to spend money fixing it. Nathan Holmquist says, not to change the subject, what's the U.S. flag on the wall? My father's flag was a U.S. Navy vet. Oh, my son got that in Afghanistan. They actually flew around in their helicopters with them when they were going on missions, and yeah, everybody in the family got one. It was real. It wasn't one that just, oh, here's the flag. No, it flew on a mission, so that's what that's for. And he's done now. He's back in Clarksville. Well, Uber CEO has pledged to go green with his fleet of cars. Of course, he doesn't own a fleet of cars. He has people that own them, and he doesn't even call them employees. He calls them contract laborers. He says they want to be at zero emissions in the United States by 2030, right? They want to be. Hey, look, all I have to say is you're not even using these guys as employees. But you're going to say, well, you got to have an electric car if you're going to drive for us, you know? Passing the buck. We'll go green. We'll only let people drive with electric cars. Oh, imagine that. You got an electric Uber. Well, I got to wait 4 hours to charge it up. I'm not making any money now. Well, the old CEO of Uber doesn't care. It's not his charging capacity, not the time he's not making money. He'll have more people drive with their electric cars, right? And each one of you will make less and less money. And at that same meeting, the Uber CEO says, one day, 20% of our drivers could not be drivers. They could be driverless cars, you know? He admits you can't have driverless cars for the whole thing. And he also admits this. 10 years from now, we're going to have significantly more human drivers on the platform than you do today. But I wouldn't be surprised if 10 or 20% of the drivers are robots. I think we could get there. What, is he going to use the robots as contract labor? You got to take care of your own taxes. You're just independent contractors. You don't work for me. Maybe the robots will have a revolution against them if it comes down. It just amazes me the horse manure that comes out of these guys' mouths, you know? He doesn't have fleets of cars. Other people's cars, they say, well, you're going to have to get electric cars now. You know, what a load of baloney. Anybody who would listen to what these people have to say is beyond me, you know? Their mouths never stop moving. But if you follow the money, it's other people's money that he's playing with, not his own. He's not going to buy a fleet of electric cars. He's not going to buy a fleet of robots either, probably. Then he says stuff like, I think it might be possible for this to possibly happen. You know what that means? Nothing. Nada. Zilch. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.